The Bosphorus is a natural strait and internationally significant waterway located in northwestern Turkey that forms part of the continental boundary between Europe and Asia, and separates Asian Turkey from European Turkey. The world's narrowest strait used for international navigation, the Bosphorus connects the Black Sea with the Sea of Marmara and, by extension via the Dardanelles, the Aegean and Mediterranean Seas. Most of the shores of the strait are heavily settled, straddled by the city of Istanbul's metropolitan population of 17 million inhabitants extending inland from both coasts. Together with the Dardanelles Strait, the Bosphorus forms the Turkish Straits. Name. The original name of the channel comes from an anglicization of the ancient Greek beta omicron sigma pi omicron rho omicron sigma, which was folk etymologized as beta omicron sigma pi omicron rho omicron sigma, i.e. cattle strait, from the genitive of bos beta omicron sigma ox cattle plus poros pi omicron rho omicron sigma passage, thus meaning cattle passage or cow passage. This is in reference to the mythological story of Io, who was transformed into a cow, and was subsequently condemned to wander the earth until she crossed the Bosphorus, where she met the Titan Prometheus, who comforted Io with the information that she would be restored to human form by Zeus and become the ancestress of the greatest of all heroes, Heracles. This folk etymology was canonized by Aeschylus in Prometheus Bound, where Prometheus prophesies to Io that the strait would be named after her. The site where Io supposedly went ashore was near Chrysopolis, and was named Bu, the cow. The same site was also known as Dardanelles, as it was where the Athenian general Chares had erected a monument to his wife Dardanelles, which included a colossal statue of a cow. The spelling with ph as Bosphorus has no justification in the ancient Greek name, but it occurs as a variant in medieval Latin, and in medieval Greek sometimes as beta omicron sigma phi omicron rho omicron sigma, giving rise to the French form Bosphore, Spanish Bosforo, and Russian. The 12th century Greek scholar John Zetzes calls it Damolidon Bosphoron, but he also reports that in popular usage the strait was known as Prosphoron during his day, the name of the most ancient northern harbour of Constantinople. Historically, the Bosphorus was also known as the Strait of Constantinople, or the Thracian Bosphorus, in order to distinguish it from the Cimmerian Bosphorus in Crimea. These are expressed in Herodotus' Histories 4.83 as Bosphorus Thracius, Bosphorus Thraciae, and beta omicron sigma pi omicron rho omicron sigma theta rho kappa iota omicron sigma, respectively. Other names by which the strait is referenced by Herodotus include Chalcedonian Bosphorus, or Mysian Bosphorus. The term eventually came to be used as common noun beta omicron sigma pi omicron rho omicron sigma, meaning a strait, and was also formally applied to the Hellespont in classical Greek by Aeschylus and Sophocles. Presently, the waterway is officially referred to as simply Bosphorus, the Strait of Istanbul, or Istanbul Strait. Geography. As a maritime waterway, the Bosphorus connects various seas along the eastern Mediterranean, the Balkans, the Near East, and western Eurasia, and specifically connects the Black Sea to the Sea of Marmara. The Marmara further connects to the Aegean and Mediterranean Seas via the Dardanelles. Thus, the Bosphorus allows maritime connections from the Black Sea all the way to the Mediterranean Sea and the Atlantic Ocean via Gibraltar, and the Indian Ocean through the Suez Canal, making it a crucial international waterway, in particular for the passage of goods coming in from Russia. A common mistake often made by foreigners is to assume the Bosphorus is a river, when it is, in fact, a narrow sea channel. Formation. The exact scientific cause and date of the formation of the Bosphorus remain the subject of debate among geologists. One recent theory, dubbed the Black Sea Deluge theory, which was launched by a study of the same name in 1997 by two scientists from Columbia University, postulates that the Bosphorus was formed around 5600 BCE when the rising waters of the Mediterranean Sea and the Sea of Marmara breached through to the Black Sea, which at the time, according to the theory, was a low-lying body of fresh water. Many geologists, though, claim that the strait is much older. For the perspective of ancient Greek mythology, it was said that colossal floating rocks known as the Simple Gates, or clashing rocks, once occupied the hilltops on both sides of the Bosphorus, and destroyed any ship that attempted passage of the channel by rolling down the strait's hills and violently crushing all vessels between them. The Simple Gates were defeated when the lyrical hero Jason obtained successful passage, whereupon the rocks became fixed, and Greek access to the Black Sea was opened. Present morphology. The limits of the Bosphorus are defined as the connecting line between the lighthouses of Rumeli Feneri and Anadolu Feneri in the north, and between the Ahirkarpi Feneri and the Kadikoy Insaburnu Feneri in the south. Between these limits, the strait is 31 kilometers long, with a width of 3,329 meters at the northern entrance and 2,826 meters at the southern entrance. Its maximum width is 3,420 meters between Umuayeri and Buyuka Limani, and minimum width 700 meters between Kandili Point and Asayan. The depth of the Bosphorus varies from 13 to 110 meters in midstream, with an average of 65 meters. The deepest location is between Kandili and Babik with 110 meters. The most shallow locations are off Kadikoy in Saburnu on the northward route with 18 meters and off Asayun Point on the southward route with 13 meters. The Golden Horn is an estuary off the main strait that historically acted as a moat to protect old Istanbul from attack, as well as providing a sheltered anchorage for the imperial navies of various empires until the 19th century, after which it became a historic neighborhood at the heart of the city, popular with tourists and locals alike. Newer explorations. It had been known since before the 20th century that the Black Sea and the Sea of Marmara flow into each other in a geographic example of density flow, and in August 2010, a continuous underwater channel of suspension composition was discovered to flow along the floor of the Bosphorus, which would be the sixth largest river on Earth if it were to be on land. The study of the water and wind erosion of the straits relates to that of its formation. Sections of the shore have been reinforced with concrete or rubble, and sections of the strait prone to deposition are periodically dredged. The 2010 team of scientists, led by the University of Leeds, used a robotic yellow submarine to observe detailed flows within an undersea river, scientifically referred to as a submarine channel, for the first time. Submarine channels are similar to land rivers, but they are formed by density currents, underwater flow mixtures of sand, mud and water that are denser than sea water and so sink and flow along the bottom. These channels are the main transport pathway for sediments to the deep sea, where they form sedimentary deposits. These deposits ultimately hold not only untapped reserves of gas and oil, they also house important secrets, from clues on past climate change to the ways in which mountains were formed. The team studied the detailed flow within these channels, and findings included: the channel complex and the density flow provide the ideal natural laboratory for investigating and detailing the structure of the flow field through the channel. Our initial findings show that the flow in these channels is quite different to the flow in river channels on land. Specifically, As flow moves around a bend, it spirals in the opposite direction in the deep sea compared to the spiral found in river channels on land. This is important in understanding the sedimentology and layers of sediment deposited by these systems. The central tenet of the Black Sea deluge theory is that as the ocean rose 72.5 meters at the end of the last ice age, when the massive ice sheets melted, the sealed Bosphorus was overtopped in a spectacular flood that increased the then freshwater Black Sea lake 50%, and drove people from the shores for many months. This was proven by undersea explorer Robert Ballard, who discovered settlements along the old shoreline. Scientists dated the flood to 7,500 BP or 5,500 BC from fresh saltwater microflora. The peoples driven out by the constantly rising water, which must have been terrifying and inexplicable, spread to all corners of the Western world, carrying the story of the Great Flood, how it probably ended most religions. As the waters surged, they scoured a network of sea floor channels less resistant to denser suspended solids in liquid, which remains a very active layer today. The first images of these submarine channels were obtained in 1999, showing them to be of great size during a NATO SACLANT undersea research project using jointly the NATO RV Alliance and the Turkish Navy survey ship Kubitlu. In 2002, a survey was carried out on board the iframe RV Lasoa for Blasan project completed the multi-beam mapping of this underwater channel, Fan Delta. A complete map was published in 2009 using these previous results with high-quality mapping obtained in 2006. The team will use the data obtained to create innovative computer simulations that can be used to model how sediment flows through these channels. The models the team will produce will have broad applications, including inputting into the design of seafloor engineering by oil and gas companies. The project was led by Dr. Jeff Pekel and Dr. Daniel Parsons at the University of Leeds, in collaboration with the University of Southampton, Memorial University, and the Institute of Marine Sciences. The survey was run and coordinated from the Institute of Marine Sciences research ship, the RV Cocker-Piri Race. The researchers estimate that the river, known as a submarine channel, would be the sixth largest river in the world if it were on land based on the amount of water flowing through it. History. As part of the only passage between the Black Sea and the Mediterranean, the Bosphorus has always been of great importance from a commercial and military point of view, and remains strategically important today. It is a major sea access route for numerous countries, including Russia and Ukraine. Control over it has been an objective of a number of conflicts in modern history, notably the Russo-Turkish War, as well as of the attack of the Allied powers on the Dardanelles during the 1915 Battle of Gallipoli in the course of World War I. Ancient Greek, Persian, Roman, and Byzantine eras. The strategic importance of the Bosphorus dates back millennia. The Greek city-state of Athens in the 5th century BC, which was dependent on grain imports from Scythia, maintained critical alliances with cities which controlled the straits, such as the Megarian colony Byzantium. Persian King Darius I the Great, in an attempt to subdue the Scythian horsemen who roamed across the north of the Black Sea, crossed through the Bosphorus, then marched towards the Danube River. His army crossed the Bosphorus over an enormous bridge made by connecting Achaemenid boats. This bridge essentially connected the farthest geographic tip of Asia to Europe, encompassing at least some 1,000 meters of open water if not more. Years later, a similar boat bridge would be constructed by Xerxes I on the Dardanelles Strait. During his invasion of Greece, the Byzantines called the Bosphorus Stenon, and most important toponyms of it Bosphorios Acra Argyropolis, St. Mamas, Street, Phocas, Hestirai Mycleon, Phineas, Aniplaces Sosthenion in European side and Hieron Tower, Ionian, and Themiu, Sophianai, Bithynian Crispolis in Asian side. In this era, the strategic significance of the strait was one of the factors in the decision of the Roman Emperor Constantine the Great to found there, in AD 330, his new capital, Constantinople, which came to be known as the capital of the Eastern Roman Empire. The phrase "swim the Bosphorus" or "crossing the Bosphorus" was, and is still used to indicate religious conversion to the Eastern Orthodox Church. Ottoman-Era. On the 29th of May 1453, Constantinople was conquered by the Ottoman Empire. In fact, as the Ottoman Turks closed in on Constantinople, they constructed a fortification on each side of the strait, Anadolu Hisari and Rumeli Hisari. At its peak in the 16th through the 18th centuries, the Ottoman Empire had wrested control of the entire Black Sea area, which was for the time an Ottoman lake on which Russian warships were prohibited. Subsequently, several international treaties have governed vessels using the waters. Under the Treaty of Hunkasklizi of July 8, 1833, the Bosphorus and Dardanelles Straits were to be closed on Russian demand to naval vessels of other powers. By the terms of the London Straits Convention concluded on July 13, 1841, between the great powers of Europe, Russia, the United Kingdom, France, Austria and Prussia, the ancient rule of the Ottoman Empire was re-established by closing the Turkish Straits to any and all warships, barring those of the Sultan's allies during wartime. It thus benefited British naval power at the expense of Russian, as the latter lacked direct access for its navy to the Mediterranean. Following World War I, the 1920 Treaty of Chevreuse demilitarized the strait and made it an international territory under the control of the League of Nations. Turkish Republican Era. This was amended under the 1923 Treaty of Lausanne, which restored the straits to Turkish territory, but allowed all foreign warships and commercial shipping to traverse the straits freely. Turkey eventually rejected the terms of the treaty, and subsequently Turkey remilitarized the straits area. The reversion was formalized under the Montreux Convention regarding the regime of the Turkish Straits of July 20, 1936. That convention, which is still in force, treats the straits as an international shipping lane, save that Turkey retains the right to restrict the naval traffic of non-Black Sea states. Turkey was neutral in World War II until February 1945, and the straits were closed to the warships of belligerent nations during this time, although some German auxiliary vessels were permitted to transit. In diplomatic conferences, Soviet representatives had made known their interest in Turkish concession of Soviet naval bases on the straits. This, as well as Stalin's demands for the restitution of the Turkish provinces of Kars, Artvin and Ardahan to the Soviet Union, were considerations in Turkey's decision to abandon neutrality in foreign affairs. Turkey declared war against Germany in February 1945, but did not engage in offensive actions. Turkey joined NATO in 1952, thus affording its straits even more strategic importance as a commercial and military waterway. During the early 21st century, the Turkish straits have become particularly important for the oil industry. Russian oil, from ports such as Novorossiysk, is exported by tankers primarily to Western Europe and the via the Bosphorus and the Dardanelles Straits. In 2011, Turkey planned a 50 km canal through Silivri as a second waterway, reducing risk in the Bosphorus crossings. Maritime. The waters of the Bosphorus are traversed by numerous passenger and vehicular ferries daily, as well as recreational and fishing boats ranging from dinghies to yachts owned by both public and private entities. The strait also experiences significant amounts of international commercial shipping traffic by freighters and tankers. Between its northern limits at Rumeli Feneri and Anadolu Feneri and its southern ones at Ahirkapi Feneri and Kadikoy in Saburnu Feneri, there are numerous dangerous points for large-scale maritime traffic that require sharp turns and management of visual obstructions. Famously, the stretch between Kandili Point and Asayun requires a 45-degree course alteration in a location where the currents can reach 7 to 8 knots. To the south at Yenikoy, the necessary course alteration is 80 degrees, compounding these difficult changes in trajectory. The rear and forward sights at Kandili and Yenikoy are also completely blocked prior to and during the course alteration, making it impossible for ships approaching from the opposite direction to see around these bends. The risks posed by geography are further multiplied by the heavy ferry traffic across the strait linking the European and Asian sides of the city. As such, all the dangers and obstacles characteristic of narrow waterways are present and acute in this critical sea lane. In 2011, the Turkish government discussed creating a large-scale canal project roughly 80 kilometers long that runs north-south through the western edges of Istanbul province as a second waterway between the Black Sea and the Marmara, intended to reduce risk in the Bosphorus. The project currently continues being debated. Land 2 suspension bridges cross the Bosphorus. The first of these, the Bosphorus Bridge, is 1,074 meters long and was completed in 1973. The second, named Fatih Sultan Mehmet Bridge, is 1,090 meters long, and was completed in 1988 about 5 kilometers north of the first bridge. The Bosphorus Bridge forms part of the O1 motorway, while the Fatih Sultan Mehmet Bridge forms part of the Trans-European motorway. Construction of a third suspension bridge, the Yavuz Sultan Selim Bridge, began on May 29, 2013. Opening is planned for mid-2016. The bridge will be built near the northern end of the Bosphorus, between the villages of Garipsa on the European side and Poyraskoy on the Asian side. It will be part of the Northern Marmara motorway, which will be further integrated with the existing Black Sea coastal highway, and will allow transit traffic to bypass city traffic. Submarine. The Marmarai project, featuring a 13.7 kilometers long undersea railway tunnel, opened on the 29th of October 2013. Approximately 1,400 meters of the tunnel runs under the strait at a depth of about 55 meters. An undersea water supply tunnel with a length of 5,551 meters, named the Bosphorus Water Tunnel, was constructed in 2012 to transfer water from the Melon Creek in Dusche province to the European side of Istanbul, a distance of 185 kilometers. The Eurasia Tunnel is a road tunnel between Kazlisma and Göztepe, which began construction in February 2011 and is expected to open in 2016. Sightseeing. The Bosphorus has 620 waterfront houses built during the Ottoman period along the strait's European and Asian shorelines. Ottoman palaces such as the Topkapi Palace, Dolmabahce Palace, Yildiz Palace, Saragan Palace, Feriyu Palaces, Beylibi Palace, Kukuksu Palace, İlamur Palace, Hatay Sultan Palace, Adil Sultan Palace and Khedive Palace are within its view. Buildings and landmarks within view include the Hagia Sophia, Hagia Irene, Sultan Ahmed Mosque, Yeni Mosque, Kilik Ali Pasha Mosque, Nasrettiya Mosque, Dolmabahce Mosque, Ortaköy Mosque, Üsküdar Sultan Mosque, Yeni Valide Mosque, Maiden's Tower, Galata Tower, Rumelian Castle, Anatolian Castle, Yoris Castle, Selimiye Barracks, Sakip Sarbansi Museum, Sadberk Hanım Museum, Istanbul Museum of Modern Art, Borusan Museum of Contemporary Art, Tufani Amir Museum, Mimar Fine Arts University, Galatasaray University, Bogazici University, Robert College, Kabatays High School, Kuleli Military High School. 2 points in Istanbul have most of the public ferries that traverse the strait, from Eminönü on the historic peninsula of Istanbul to Anadolu Kavacı near the Black Sea, zigzagging and calling briefly multiple times at the Rumelian and Anatolian sides of the city. At Central Pier's shorter, regular ride in one of the public ferries cross. Private ferries operate between Üsküdar and Beşiktaş Kabatays in the city. A few well-known geographic hazards are multiplied by ferry traffic across the strait linking the European and Asian sides of the city, particularly for the largest ships. The catamaran sea buses offer high-speed commuter services between the European and Asian shores of the Bosphorus, but they stop at fewer ports and piers in comparison to the public ferries. Both the public ferries and the sea buses also provide commuter services between the Bosphorus and the Prince Islands in the Sea of Marmara. There are also tourist rides available in various places along the coasts of the Bosphorus. The prices vary according to the type of the ride, and some feature loud popular music for the duration of the trip. Image gallery.